Howdy, folks. Welcome to the podcast Iron. My name is Laura Mullen Vermilia, and on this podcast, I interview members of the cast iron art community in order to inspire, educate, and spread ideas about iron casting and cast iron art. I'm very excited to introduce Wisconsin-based artist and business owner Alisa Toninato as our guest on today's episode. Alisa, thank you so much for letting me interview you for the show. I have learned so much from you in chatting for just these few hours. Your passion and excitement shines through in your story and has given me a renewed attitude for what I'm personally doing. So thank you. The podcast Iron Show is sponsored in part by supporters on Patreon, and this episode is brought to you by our top supporter, Sloss Metal Arts, which is a national center for iron casting and metal art. For more information about the Sloss Metal Arts program, visit their website, which is slossmetalarts.com. Now, for all of you listening or watching, thanks so much for tuning in, and please enjoy. Welcome to the podcast Iron. Today's guest, we have Alisa Toninato. Alisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Laura. This is awesome. I'm pumped.
I'm really glad that you agreed to do this interview because I'm very curious about you. I mean, I've known about you for a while. So we were actually talking about this like right before we started officially recording, but I met you in 2012, I think, at 6 Mile, but just briefly, because I think we were both very busy.
Yeah, right on. I was wondering that because you said you're in Southern Illinois and I was like, is that with Allison and like Noah and everybody? And so that was such a fun conference, dude. That was good times.
I feel like I got a little bit spoiled because I came right from having iron at the University of Georgia where I was in grad school and then moved to the St. Louis area, and Allison and Noah were already having these conferences. And so I didn't really know what it was like to be without iron for years, And so that was really, really lucky to just go from like one hot spot to another hot spot. And so that's where I met you and a bunch of other people from kind of like the north, because it's a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Even like obviously closer than Birmingham, Alabama. So I met people there that I hadn't even met at Sloss. So
right. Yeah. And we felt like that was like a good intervention with the South. So that's funny. Like we got introduced to Ropey Stumpy there, and that was like life-changing. That was like life. I like almost broke my thumb. Andrew almost broke his back. He was like having it out, man.
Were you guys
drunk? Yes.
No. I was gonna say, was it on cinder blocks or was it actually on logs?
Oh, it was on cinder blocks for sure. It was definitely like totally OSHA approved. It was with like electrical cords and cinder blocks.
Like most things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It was crazy pants. I was like, these are how these guys play. Holy shit.
All right. Well, our first question, as is tradition, I feel like I should say now, as is tradition. Well, who the hell are you anyways?
Who the heck am I anyways? My name is Alisa. No, just kidding. I know that you already said that. So I'm an artist. I live in Madison, or actually Waunakee, Wisconsin, which is just north of Madison. I've been a metal artist since I graduated school in 2005. I have 2 businesses based in cast iron. One is a production company that makes state-shaped cast iron skillets. The other one is the art studio, which is kind of my main identity, I guess. So I'm an artist and an entrepreneur and mom, and I'm just a person trying to make my way through this crazy life, I guess.
I have so many questions about your businesses and obviously cast iron, but let's rewind back and start at the beginning and talk about your formidable years. So childhood, did you start out as making art as a child, or did you do crafts or any introduction to early tool use?
Yeah. So I'm the baby of three. I have two older brothers. Everybody in my family plays hockey. So they're like, you're going to be a hockey player. And I was like, or not, like,
Yeah.
like I really didn't feel it. I hated being cold in a rink or whatever. But I distinctly remember being very, I remember being in elementary school and like having the first time I got like oil clay, and we were learning about dinosaurs, and like at recess I asked my teacher, can I just like have some of that clay for recess? And she was really serious about like, you need to bring it back, like, yes, I'll give this to you, but that you got to bring it back. And I was like, I totally will. It's like a 5-minute recess or whatever. And when I was outside, we were jamming. It was really hot out. And I remember I was like, I just wanted to recreate some of those dinosaurs. And it was so easy for me to do. It was like, I was like, I can totally make like whatever's in my head, turn out. And sorry, kids,
It's
kids
fine.
these days. And so I just remember then like all of my friends were coming by and they're like, whoa, you got some clay for recess? And they're like, what are you making? And I was just like, whatever you want me to make. Like, give me some orders, And so they're like, different animals, like, can you make a monkey? Can you make a tiger? And I was just like, I'm like on it, and they would leave and then come back and I would give them these like little figurines and I was just like popping them out. And I was just remember thinking, like, this is so fun for me. Like, I like love sitting down. I don't even care about playing on the playground. I just like love making these like figures and like people just, like enjoying them, that was the first like key memory that I have of like I'm good at forms.
And how old were you?
I'm certain it was like a first grade scenario.
Wow. Yeah.
Like
That's
it
early.
was pretty early. Yeah. And we were still taking naps during the day. I remember it was like, there was like those days.
Yeah.
And then, I remember the second like strong memory is like, I watched a whole lot of Reading Rainbow growing up, and Omar Gooding, that guy, he went to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and they like did this whole thing, they made him like, right, as a wax.
Of course.
They showed that whole process from like taking pictures, meeting this person, measurements, and this like intimate studio space, with these other amazing artists, and they just get this like really intense time to like do these very specific, like hyper realistic sculptures that they have turned into these, to these wax figures for these, those museums. And I just remember just being so profoundly impacted by that reality that people made that, like that people made that, and that there needed to be, there was very specific people that had that skill set and not just anybody. And I felt like that's me, like that I can do that. And that's what I want to do. And that's what, and I wrote that in my like diary, like at like 8 years old. Like this was like now, like an 8-year-old memory that I have of being like, that's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a sculptor for Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, duh, And so, yeah. And I think the other formidable thing that I had growing up was that I rode horses growing up. So they were a huge part of my life. I was insanely in love with horses since, birth, I guess. And then I started riding around 8 years old as well. And yeah, horses do something for you. They teach you so many things, they just are such powerful but sensitive, intuitive animals that just, like you can get a lot out of even just grooming horses. I was a jumper. So like we were riding, jumping, we were riding hunt seats. So I was wrapping horses' legs a lot. I rode, thoroughbreds and Morgans and Tricaners and all kinds of different breeds of horses that taught me so much. And I just loved their anatomy. And I was so, I was so aware of their anatomies all the time because you're taking care of them, but also, it's like they have like very delicate like structural, like their skeletons are very delicate, but they're such strong animals,
Yeah.
and you're like wrapping their legs and like, and I just, and just going over their bodies, like when you're grooming them and stuff, it's just, it for me, I can like record that, and I can sculpt a horse like blindfolded to this day. Like it's just the feeling that I have. And they, and it was like having that, I don't know, maybe it's a combination of working with large animals and doing lots of barn chores that like, that made me, like that paired me with sculpture so easily, because there's a lot of heavy equipment and like, and just like a lot of physical work, that just doesn't bug me at all. Like, with sculpture, like a lot of times people that are new to sculpture, or in general, they're always like, oh, it's like so much work.
It sure is.
It is, but I never like found that as a negative. Like it was actually like one of the things that like naturally, like I'm like naturally, like if it's not a physical process, I like have very little interest in doing it actually. So there's just like, I guess those three things, I guess, like clay dinosaurs, wax humans, and horses. definitely going to be an iron casting artist.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the trifecta of
it's like that's all you need.
Yeah,
clearly. Yeah, clearly.
So then throughout your middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, were you still sculpting because you already had that goal in mind?
Yeah. So, middle school is a blur for me. I just remember riding horses a whole lot, and I loved team sports too. Like that's like kind of another thing that I think also preconditioned me to like iron casting, which is, I think, very much a team sport.
Oh yeah.
And I loved, like if it was something that I could do with other people, I was like into it. So I did a lot of, what they called Odyssey of the Mind back in the day. And I think they changed it to like Destination Imagination or something. It was just some extracurricular, like creative team like thing that you did. And it was competitive, and it was all about creativity and playwriting and in set design and stuff. And I loved being the person to build stuff. That was my jam. I loved coming up with ideas and then building things. And then in high school, I remember, so they were like very big on, STEM, like they wanted like science and math and stuff. And I had this horrible, this guidance counselor that was like, well, it like clearly what you're going to need to do to like succeed in life is to take all the math in whatever that you can. And I never have been diagnosed dyslexic, but I had, this is jumping backwards to elementary school, but I had learning disability, where I was both, but it was really odd where I was like in the learning disabilities because I was saying the answer wrong, even though I had it written down on my, I was doing the right answer, but I would say it wrong because I was reading it wrong because my brain's messed up like that.
Well, your brain is just wired differently.
Yeah. It's like numbers, letters, alphanumeric, anything is really easy for me to just, it takes me forever. I don't enjoy reading for leisure. It's not my jam. And so, but at the same time, I would test out way above average in math, which was a weird thing. So I was simultaneously in a learning disabilities class and an advanced math class. And it was I would go to both. And I was testing out of my math, of my grade level. Yeah. But then I was going in for what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? And so it was a confusing time. I really didn't care. It just made me very apathetic to what people considered successful and standards and stuff. Cause I was who cares? This is what you care about, not what I feel is important. And I literally believe that from a really early age. I was and I've been really, I'm a like a rule breaker on a lot of things that I hope my daughter is better at, like things like getting to places on time and like giving a shit about certain like rules, on societal
Yeah. You know
rules.
what though, with all that stuff, it's like you're still here. I'm
Yeah,
looking at you. You're fine.
you're
It's
fine.
it's fine. And
It's just like, but it's like now, it's just weird because like it's like I had to navigate, you have to
yeah.
navigate that at some point and decide what is fine, I guess.
And what's important.
Right. So in high school, basically this guidance counselor told me this stuff, which was only a catalyst for me to say like, well, go F yourself. Cause like,
Mhm.
I don't believe what you're saying matters anyway. And so I took an art class. My first art class was in my junior year of high school. So I didn't even have art, like formal art class
Oh,
until junior
wow.
year of high school. Yeah. Cause I was like, I was like getting signed up. And we also had this block schedule, which was, I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I
it's like
have it. The
4 classes
school,
a day.
yeah, the
Yeah.
school that I went to for high school had it and converted to it then right before I got into high school. But I remember like seeing high school student protesters at the town common with posters.
Town Cammon.
Yeah, like protesting the getting rid of the block schedule. And at the time I still don't really know, but anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the term. So go on.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I think it was great. Honestly, I had it the whole way through high school, and it was 4 classes a day. They're like hour and a half, each, I think. And then I don't know how that makes up a whole day, but it was just four classes only. But so then that means like if you have to take like, like one, like math one, and then you can sometimes like how you get screwed over is like you take math one or something, and then you don't get it the second semester, and you don't get it the first semester the next year, but you get it the next. So now you're
Yeah.
like almost a year and a half out.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
the caveat. And
A
like,
downside. Yeah.
and I couldn't squeeze in art during those times until I just like, said, fuck the man. And I was like, I'm taking art and screw any of the other things, because I spent a lot of my time dicking around with like, all of those other important classes or whatever. And so when I got into art, I had this amazing teacher that two amazing women teachers that like they totally supported me in these really ambitious ideas. Like I had there was one girl that was one Black girl in my class, in my whole school, really. And she came in from Chicago, and she was like one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Like beautiful it outside and inside. Like she was just such an amazing, had like decades of experience on us, even though she was the same age as us. Just a fascinating person. And she was a model, and she sat for me to do a bust of her. And I was like, I'm just going to sculpt her in clay. Like, clearly that's my first project. That's my first project.
Oh,
And I know. And of course, inevitably it failed the first time. I didn't know, shit from Shinola in terms of like clay sculpture, like armature,
yeah.
there's no
It's a
armature.
whole, yeah, it is an art in itself, obviously.
Right.
But yeah.
The technical side of it, it was like
Yeah.
crazy. But my teachers like really noticed that, that I had this like drive for it, and that I had this ability to carry it through. I just needed technical help that they didn't have. So they sent me to another high school. Like I got like a free ticket out of school, which was like, to me, it was just like fueling my anarchy, my like inner anarchy, which I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, see you guys later. I'm going to go to another art class like over there. And, and I got a chance to learn from another teacher that was really skilled at these things. And they totally helped me like redo it and get a firing on it. And it was like, this thing that was just like, they were like, man, you have like tenacity, they're like, you got like some, you're like in it to win it. And I was just like, I mean, I just, I didn't think of it like, yay, like, yay, I like made it through. I was just like, no, I have to figure this out. Like, like it didn't work the first time. You just got to figure this out.
Yeah.
I don't care how long it takes, And then like there was like some publication on it. It was crazy. It like got like some sort of like they called in the press or something like that. And it was like, I was like, guys, I just finished a project, like you don't do that for everybody. Like, it's just like, I just needed to get it done because like time's ticking here. Like I'm going to be gone out of here soon. So I had some support like during those last 2 years of high school that, I think what happened, there was this kind of like this like fork in the road for me where I had like always been in horses, and I was like, seriously, for my whole life, I was like, well, I'll either be like I knew that like I wanted to do something creative, but I also really loved horses. And like, I was like, well, maybe I'll just be an equine vet and, do something successful or whatever. But I had like one job shadow with an equine vet that was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I was like, the people, like horse people are crazy. And they're like, and they, they can suck. I didn't want to work with people that were like crazy pants, and I loved horses, but I was like, instead, we had like a recruiter come in to the arts, like it was from the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. And he gave a presentation that was like totally baller. Like, I was like, that's, it was like another one of those, like, like reading rainbow moments.
Yeah.
Where I was like, that's who I want to be. Those, like, you're my people. Like that is where I need to be. I want to be, like doing that. Like, that is an actual opportunity that I can be like a student, like doing that, I'm just like, that's hands down. So I worked really hard that summer, building a portfolio. Like, I didn't have very much time. I didn't start this art thing until like later in high school, and I had zero portfolio. It was like, so I was just taking these drawing classes at night. I was going to the UWGB. I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and taking these night classes, like 3-hour, open drawing classes. And then going on the side, I would just go outside whenever I could and just draw whatever I saw, like whenever I could. And so I had that as like a starting portfolio that like really, like, I think that like I brought that to the recruiter and they said, all right, you need like just a little bit more, like, just do a little bit more variety of things. Okay. And, and apply to some of these scholarships. And so eventually I just kind of like plugged away at it and applied to a scholarship, I got a $20,000 scholarship to go. So that was like almost like a first year.
That's like, great.
Yeah. Like a first year, and it kind of validated, a lot of things about just like, not only just that, like that I was serious to my parents. Cause obviously when you tell your parents that you want to go to art school, they're just like, oh, so you want to be like working as a waitress the rest of your life? Okay. I was just like, no, I mean, like, this is like these people are serious, and so that really helped, and my parents are amazingly supportive in every sort of way. And so they were just like, well, they're like, well, your brother's played semi-pro hockey and, and worked for the Packers. I mean, why not go to art school? They're like, you guys are all a bunch of weirdos, different, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. And just as long as you do it 100%, that's the deal. So, so that's what I did. I decided to go to the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design.
What did you focus on when you were there?
Right away, I knew I was a sculpture major, and I never changed. And it was like 100%. I was like, I remember listening to like all the different majors and just being like, maybe I'm an illustrator because I love like, I love storytelling and stuff. And then when they started saying like, it was just pretty much two-dimensional, I was just like, yeah, no, I'm a sculptor. I was like, I can't do like computer, like work or something my whole life. I mean, I love certain design stuff, and storytelling, but you can do that in so many ways,
So do you start in that? So I don't know much about that school just because regionally I've never been around it, but sure. Is it a foundations program and then you get to do sculpture 1 as a sophomore?
Yeah, it is set up that way. So you have foundations, which kind of gives you like a taste, at the time, this is how they set it up. I think now it's different, but
Okay.
they basically, you kind of get, your like taste of everything. We had like a little bit of industrial design, a little bit of, I don't think we got photography. It was like one of those things that you had to decide like right away if you wanted to be in photography. And then they gave those students like their first, those students got to do some like intro stuff.
Like a different path, but
yeah, but I knew for sure I was not interested in that. And so like, I was just like, go ahead. And then we had like space forms. I remember it was like a really awesome class. And, we just, a lot of figure stuff. You just kind of, I feel like that first year is always like weeding out people who are like willing to put in the work,
Yeah.
So, like,
I think showing how much work it's really going to be.
Yeah. Right.
But also sorting. It's like the sorting hat,
Yeah.
Oh, you thought you wanted to be a painter, but then it's
right. Yeah. And people flip a lot in that first year. Yeah.
But it's hopefully for the best,
Right. Yeah. No. And I think I had such a good time. Like that school, it still is very design heavy. Like it's known to be like its industrial design program is very strong. And, and people kind of go there to be either an illustrator or industrial designer. And, and at the time, there still was a really strong sculpture program. So there was like, I had like, here's what's bonkers. So my class, when I went there, we were all Leos, number one, which is like nuts, right? Like it's just a herd of cats, crazy animals, like pissing on each other's stuff and like starting things on fire. That's what we were doing all the time. And we were all in the foundry. We were like 100% inside of this foundry, like working it, together. We lived, we ate, we like slept everywhere in this sculpture studio. I mean, it was like, we were such rats, man. I mean, we were in there 100% of the time. And like, so we're all like within 15 days birth of each other.
That's wild.
Like, I know one girl had the same birthday as me. It was just like, it just had to happen within, like within 15 days.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, yeah. And like, and then we all were like, just so like, we were just such casting people. Like everybody had this energy for it. And it was just, it was like gas and gas and alcohol and oxygen.
Yeah.
Like, and they gave us like so much trust. I mean, they like, the authorities, like they saw this group of people that were kind of nuts and they were like, holy shit, these people are going to like take us down if we don't let them have a little bit of freedom, And so like, they let us do some stuff that was like, I would say questionable to this day, but like, they gave us keys to the shop, like to run the kiln for overnight. Yeah, it was.
So like, lay it out for me. So this is your graduating class sculpture area. So this is not the whole school, just that's people that happened to choose sculpture in your graduating class. And, and well, I had another question. Oh, okay. So was this established in sophomore year? Or when was the foundry? Was the foundry class a specific class, or was it like a unit in the larger program's schedule?
It was part of sculpture. Foundry was, and it didn't start until sophomore year. But to like getting specific about iron, my first iron pour was in my foundations year, and so. Yeah.
Get out of here.
It was great. So this is what happened. Another Leo, an older Leo she just like took me under her wing and basically there was this iron pour that was set up and there, and I'm just a freshman, and I'm in there, I'm in the sculpture lab because we're doing space forms and materials and, and figure sculpture. And I liked being in that studio. I mean, it was just such a groovy space, right? Like you're like, I don't know, how old are you when your foundation's 18 or, you're like 18 and you got like all this like legit stuff around you, and you're like feeling like I am like choosing my life right now, and I love this space that I have found myself in, like, and I love the smell and I love the grit of it. And I just loved Milwaukee. I mean, like Milwaukee is like my favorite town, ever. And I felt so comfortable in there, even though I knew nothing, like I literally didn't know what the word foundry was. Like I had never, like, we didn't do foundry, anything, no metal casting in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't, like I was like so oblivious to what that meant. I knew that there'd be like bronze, like you kind of like know, like, oh, sculpture, people make bronzes, but I didn't know anything. I mean, like,
yeah.
So basically it was like the first semester in foundations year, there was an adjunct professor at the time who had studied under Chuck Kraus from UW Milwaukee. And so he was a student of Chuck Kraus, and Chuck did a lot of iron. So he learned iron. He ended up building a cupola out at a different facility, like a totally off campus of Maya.
What was it? What was his name?
His name is Dan Leonhardt. And I don't think he has ever been part of the underground, in a way that like all of us have stayed. He was a very talented union fabricator. Like he was really good at welding. He's a union welder. He was really good with steel sculpture. He did big stuff, and he was like a huge guy that like weightlifted and ate peppers raw, and he was just like, he was such a character, and he was kind of aloof and I remember, and he was our first like sculpture, he was the tech, but he also taught one of the classes, and definitely taught us the intro to foundry, like Foundry 101.
So he built the furnace at an offsite of your campus. And so the person who took you under their wing, they just.
Yeah. So what happened is that they were like, it was like all the sculpture students, like above, the upperclassmen were like, yeah, we're making molds for this iron pour that we're going to do, like, do you want to be part of it? And like, and they just like, they were like, are you going to make something or what? Or like, what are you going to bring to it? And I was just like, to make it for what? Like, to do what and where is it? And they're just like, it's an iron pour and we're making sand molds. You can make whatever you want. You just got to like, you can take one of our trucks, and bring it over there. It was like so not unorganized, but just like so flippant. It was like sort of like, yeah, just, if whatever you want to do, you can make it. You got like 2 days. And so this professor, this adjunct, he was like, basically, you guys need to show up Saturday morning, at this other university, and and follow the upperclassmen. They know where it's at. It's like way behind the school, and just bring your own mold, but show up on time at 9 a.m, and you'll get your stuff. If you want something in metal, like you want something in iron, like bring a mold. And so I was like, fuck yeah, I want something. And I have no idea what that means. Like, I'm going to find something to cast, and like, there was no time to make something. So this is like first semester foundations year. It's in fall. It's in Milwaukee. There's all of these beautiful downtown, like arrangements of these corn stalks and stuff like that, like wrapped around all of the light poles or whatever. So naturally I like took one of those. And I was like, this is gonna be an amazing casting. I was like, I love it. Like, the texture is gonna be, it's great. And so I had, I like bring this like dead corn stalk in to, the sculpture. And then this upperclassman, Kelly Riolo, if she see, I can't wait till she sees the interview, because she's my like entrance into iron. And she ended up being like a photo major too. Like I think she double majored, or maybe she went from photo to sculpture, I think maybe is what happened. But she like was totally my like liaison, and she was like, all right, first we got to build a box. You're going to need to build this, box around, like it needs to be this much bigger than that and about this long. You got to think about like how the metal gets to the thing, and it was just like very, she's like, step 1, build a box. And I was like, building a box. Got it. And she helped me put it together. Check. And I was like, now what? And she's like, step 2, parting line. She's like, you got to put all this stuff, and so she showed me what like they had Petrobond there, and so put that together and, made this parting line. She's like, you got to find the middle of the part, and just kind of sweep it away and do the best you can. And so like I worked on that. And then she's like, all right, we're going to throw sand right now. Like you just throw it in like you're making sandcastles, and I was just like, done. I was like, got sandcastle done. And like, we threw it in and I was like, all right. I was like, no, we covered the thing. I was like, what do you do? She's like, no, that's side one, like, okay, now you flip it. And I was like, right on. And so, and then we excavated all this stuff out, pushed the box up, and it was like, she just totally took me through the whole thing. It was like such a tremendous gift, because who does that? That's like a lot of work for an underclassman that you don't know, that just to like have them make some thing that they just found, that has not a lot of meaning to them, it's just like, so we built this huge, very skinny, like casting, this box, bring it to the pour. My dad ends up, why was he there? I don't remember why he was down there, but he was like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I think he was like in the area. He refs hockey and like,
okay,
he might have been in the area. And he's like, he's like, what are you up to this weekend? I was like, I'm at an iron pour. He's like, what the hell is that? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, it was like fun.
But you should come.
You should come. Yeah. Like everyone's here. And so I remember like, so we go there and I drove with some other students and from our school, and we get to the site, and it's like literally behind, it's like in the back 40 of this other university. It was like hidden, they're like, go past the soccer fields, like, through like a path of forest. There's like all this, there's like marsh, there's like marshland around, and then you go around the lake, and then there it was. They had a gantry, a cupola, a small Kirby running this thing, and tons of bathtubs and radiators, and in this little shed. I'm like, what is this thing? It's like this crazy like contraption that's clearly hand built. It was like totally, I mean, they're hand built, but it was just like, your first impression of like, what the hell is that thing? And it's like got this amazing, sound to it. And there was all these other students there from UW Milwaukee. So there's like the other college in Milwaukee, and they all knew what they were doing. They were like cracking iron. They're like weighing charges. They're suiting up. They got all their leathers, like they got all their stuff, and we didn't really have any, like, we didn't have any prep on like, what was what, he's just like show up with some sledgehammers. That's what he wanted us to do. So he's like, show up with some sledgehammers and some face shields. He's like, and we get there, we lay down our molds, and like, and he's like, all right, first step. He's like, crack all of those radiators need to be cracked down into like nachos. He's like, go. And so I was just like, what? I was like, that's fucking awesome. I was like, you're letting us like just have hell at this like pile of radiators, like you want us to break them, like, and he's just like, yes, all of them, small enough. He's like, now. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, good. I was like, let's go team, go. And it's just like, and so we're sitting there cracking iron, having the best time, because it's just like, when do you get a chance to do that? It was like a punk rock video, I'm just like, this is the best. And my dad comes by, and he's just like, he comes at like kind of the heat, he found us, first of all, which was a miracle.
Amazing. Yeah.
Second of all, he's like, it was, this is fall. So this is like up here, this is duck hunting season. Is like, this is why I feel like he was either there to like duck hunt somewhere in the area, or he was there to do, I don't know why he was, I'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, he like the whole time he was looking, he's like, what is, he's like, what are you doing? Like, what is that going to do? And like, and why are you doing all the work? Like, and like, and how does this relate to what you're doing at school? And I was like, I can't answer all those questions, although I'm having a blast. I was like, isn't this great? I'm like, isn't this like crazy good? Like, I'm like, look at all these people doing it too. And I don't know, it must be legit. Like, I'm like, I loved the energy of it. It was so, like it overcoming, like you're just like, whatever's going to happen, I'm open to it. Like, cause because they made this happen themselves. Like, and I 100% support it.
Yeah.
Whatever the outcome is, and my dad the whole time was like so bored with it. He was just like, I don't, and all he's doing is looking at all the geese fly over, because we're in this like marshland basically.
Yeah.
And it's like all these geese. And so he's just sitting there like with a fake gun, like
aiming
and shooting. And I was like, that's my dad. I was like,
yeah.
They're like, who's that guy? I was like, my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, he's pretending to duck hunt right now. I'm like, don't mind. I'm like, he's here to support me and pretend duck hunt. I'm like, this is who we are. Anyway, so that was my first iron pour.
So what did you think like when they fired up the furnace? Or did you said you didn't bring leathers, so you didn't get to participate, but you watched?
Yeah, we kind of like, they didn't let me. I don't think we poured. I think that we broke all the metal, and like all of the upperclassmen and all of the other students from the other school like poured. But I was just like, I just remember thinking, how do they know what to do? Like they're all orchestrating, they're just like, they're all quietly orchestrating. This furnace was like being run by a Kirby. I remember like, it was just this really tall, they had a gantry for, I don't know if it was for the ladle. Like, I don't know why they would have the gantry there, honestly, but I just remember
or
thinking,
to put the furnace together if it was a split stack. We might not know. We might never know.
Yeah, we might never know. Yeah, it was a tall stack actually. And it was, and I don't even remember, like my memory is so jarred with this because I just like the feeling of it has lasted longer than like the detail.
Yeah, but that's more important really, because when you think about how many iron pours you've been to since then,
right?
It's like, it's the feeling that hooked you is the important part, not the specifics of that furnace,
Right. Yeah, it was exactly. And it was like, it was that. And just also the like drive to be like, I want to know what they know. Like, why, how do they know when to move and where to move and like, and what's going on next, and like, and what's making this metal melt? Like, all of those things were just kind of like these questions that I was like, I need to know more. Like, this is definitely, I have not had enough.
So how did you make that happen? Because obviously you did.
Right. Yeah. So, funny enough, I was thinking because of this interview, I was like trying to think, how many more iron pours did I have in undergrad? And honestly, I think there was only 2. It was that one, and then maybe one the following year, and then that adjunct left. And when he left, it was just like, it was like nothing. But those first 2 years left such a strong impression for me. It was like I just constantly was like, when can we do that again? Like that was all I wanted, was like more of that. And and he taught, I mean, he was such a weirdo because he he would be in the shop, like he got access to the shop, right? And he would be building some of his sculptures in there. And he was very aloof. Like when he was in the shop, he was like, I'm not teaching. I'm not here for you. I'm not here.
Yeah. Boundaries though. Healthy boundaries. I feel
healthy boundaries. But it was like, also, like, I was like, this is cool. He's really like working on his stuff, and that energy of him working on his stuff helped me work on my stuff quietly over here. And, and he wasn't letting people like, mess with him. But when he was there, I remember I was having issues with something in the welder, and he was a phenomenal welder. I mean, he could do anything. And he just like, and it was like he was waiting for me to ask him a question because I was just like, I was like trying to get the stick to like work, like,
yeah.
And he's like, and I'm like, hey, I was like, I know you're super busy. I was like, just wondering one question. He goes, make it concise. He's like, yeah. What's the question? And I was like, do I got the right, like
feeds and
answer, like, am I doing this right? And he's like, well, it depends on what you want to do. And I was like, oh God. I was like, oh God, this isn't going to be concise. I'm like, I don't know if you can help me. And I literally said, I don't know if, I'm like, we don't got time. And he's like, well, I'm on break in like 10. He's like, I can give you 5 after I go on break. And he totally gave me like 20 minutes of like hardcore, solid welding, like, one-on-one. And also just like, he would kind of like, I don't know, that's like not a cast iron like related thing, but I think that, what he taught us was like, if there's one thing I'm going to give you guys before I leave, it's that you need to know how to build it yourself. And, if there's anything you get out of going to art school, it's that whatever crazy idea you have, that you're able to do it yourself. And that's all he wanted. He was like, whether it's a casting or fabricating or like whatever, in critiques, he would be like, I don't really care. I don't care what your idea is. Like, he's like, you can say whatever you want. I don't really care about what you guys want to nitpick about it. He's like, I just want to know how you built it. Like, and what were your choices? Why, like, let's talk about fabricating, because that's all that matters. Once you get out, there's nothing more destructive to your career than having to like outsource to somebody and not have control of that, and also really being in control of your own tools and, and he taught us a lot about workspace too. So it was such a formidable 2 years of like him, showing us like the foundry, giving us a taste of iron, showing us what it's like to like work big and work independently, and I was like, man, I got to find this. I got to find this again,
Yeah. So when you got out of college, you found a way back to iron casting.
Yes, through a very crooked path. So my first job out of college was actually, I was a welder for another artist, Jinsu Kim. She had this big public art piece, and it was a very short-term thing, but welded that for her, and then got a job as a fiberglass tech for a company doing like big museum exhibits and like lots of rocks and trees, lots of fake rocks and trees. They built like stuff for, Bass Pro Shops and like aquariums and, natural history museums. So lots of really real stuff. That was the most fun job ever. I mean, I got, basically, I got hired because I was a sculptor that had mold making skills, and like, in like all of my time as a in sculpture was just trying to figure out how to make castings and mold making and pattern making, so I had a lot of these skill sets that translated to fiberglass. And then after 3 years of that, it was, I was like, had enough. And I went to, kind of took off. I like went to Norway to study like language arts and literature, and then like hitchhiked for 6 months and like lived in a hammock and, and ate like kefir for like way too long. And then like came back to the States and went to, I had a residency hooked up ahead of time at Franconia Sculpture Park, which in and of itself, I mean, two things happened at Franconia. One, it was like the worst time in my life. I hated it. I hated Franconia. It was, a lot of people love it, and that's fine.
Yeah. Everybody has their own experiences with what they're going through and what So
it was not a fun time, but it was because of that hatred that I found iron, actually, because I like and the location of it. So Franconia is about an hour north of the Twin Cities. And while I was there was one lady in the office, Felicia Glidden, and she invited all of us interns to come to an iron pour in the Twin Cities. She was like, hey guys, like, I don't know if you've heard, but there's going to be this really awesome event down in the Twin Cities. And if you guys want to make molds, like we can make our own molds up here and bring them to there. But like, there was a big pushback, like at the park. The director at the time, like, really didn't like the folks that were hosting it. He didn't believe, he thought it was like too high liability, that no interns should be able to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And like, of course, my internal, anarchy again.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
I was like, we're doing this. I was like, we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And so they had these like huge super sacks of sand up there that were soaking wet. I mean, just outside. Oh my God. And what we did is we laid out tarps, we like sun dried them. We like flipped the sand like for 3 days in the wind, in the sun, and we like dried out the freaking sand and then mixed our own molds, like, and Felicia was like, again, one of these people that just like liaisoned all of these interns to go through this process. And it had been a long time since I had made a casting, since it had been, 5 years by that time since I had made a sand mold. And we all like took our molds down, into trucks. And that's where I met Kelly Ludeking and his band of heroes down there.
So was he the one that was running the event in the Twin Cities?
Yep. He and his company, Ironhead Sculpture Services. So it was him, Justin Peters, Karen Peters, Brad Herrico, and Kelly. And they kind of all band together and they did this, two horse trailer stuffed full of foundry. And they just did this portable foundry program all over the place. And so they had everything. They had a sand mixer. They had this like little like roadshow furnace. They had all the coke and iron stuffed into this tiny little 2-horse trailer. It was hilarious. And I was like, what? Again, it was like another coming of, like coming of life almost, where you're just like, what the hell? Like, and then meeting all these other artists that like just do this on the weekend. Like there was people that were like, yeah, we're going to cast aluminum like next weekend on the railroad tracks, like by the tracks, you guys want to come with? And we're just like, what? Like you just do that whenever, like,
what year was this?
Yeah. 2008, I think. So, because my residency up there was 2008. And then, and in that, in that first month or so, it was just like, I was just like, get me the hell out of here. Like whatever I can do to like, not, I was just like procrastination station up there. I just like, I went there with a plan and I had like, a model of like what I wanted to do, but the tools weren't there to do it. Like the space wasn't right. Like people weren't right. Like just all of it just didn't make sense. But what made it all right was this opportunity to like get down to the iron port, and that grounded me. I was just like, you are my people. I was like, seriously, like this is exactly why I needed to come. I had to like suffer through that shit so that I could get here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And then of course, meeting Kelly, like, he's just like a walking network, like of, like he just knows anybody and everybody. He's like, hey, so, and just such the most, the most open, like soul, just so inclusive. And he didn't give a shit, like, that what you didn't know or what you did know, he didn't care. It was just like, come pour metal with us, like, sing with us. And, and then he invited all of us out to drinks afterwards. And it was like there that, he was like, so like, where are you coming from? And I'm like, I'm in Milwaukee, still. And he's like, oh, there's like, there's Kate Nissa down there. There's like Greg, there's this. Like, he like knew all these people that were metal casting. And I'm just like, what? Because I'm like, I didn't know where I had a tribe that I could lean into, and he's like, oh, you've got a tribe. He's like, there's a tribe down there. There's a tribe everywhere. He's like, you let me just start, you let me just start you like, and make some introductions. And then he himself came down a couple of times to help us get started with our own operations as we were, like starting to get like more serious about metal casting. So it was like, because after doing it, it was like that. After meeting him and like and being in the Twin Cities crew, like super strong, metal cast, like all the iron tribe up there is like super strong. And everybody's doing it. And it was just like, why am I not doing this? Like, why am I not just doing it myself? So that was like the turning point where it was like, it's time for me to like do this. What am I waiting for? It's so possible.
So you're casting with Kelly, and then where does it go from there? Because I feel like it explodes into what you have now.
So kind of some crazy magic happened within like a year's time. So I left Franconia, went back to my studio in Milwaukee. I had a really dope little studio that, and then hooked up with Greg Brula, who was like, he's in the iron scene, kind of with like Kate Nissa and them, and through Kelly's connections. And we met up like at a coffee shop, and we're like, hey, I was like, I like so badly want to be like running my own foundry, and I just don't know where to start. Like I've never been taught the ropes of like metal, like of furnace op or anything like that. It's like I had 2 iron pours in undergrad, and then Kelly's pour, and it was just like, I know I'm really seem naive and like young, but I'm like, I just know this is what I want to be doing, like, and I've been wanting, and I had a studio mate that I went to school with that him and I were going to start a bronze aluminum foundry, but our paths kind of separated, because he actually got a really dope job in LA working for Jeff Koons. And I ended up going to like all of these, I was like working full time and at the fiberglass shop, and then I was traveling. So and he's still like my soulmate. I mean, he's like still my bro. Like we're another Leo, of course. We're like this, but yeah, we never ended up building it. And so we just kind of like, we had that space, and then it sort of dissolved, and I needed that other, like I wanted to work with somebody else on it, especially somebody that knew more. And my studio mate at the time did, he was working for a bronze sculptor, like already. So I was like, I just need somebody to give me some of this guidance, and I will hustle it, like I will find all the resources we need. Like, I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of the money. I'm not afraid of like the time or the energy. I'm like, just show me what to do. And so Greg was my main contact, that he was like, well, I've got a friend, Dan McGuire. He's in Whitewater. Dan is a professor. He went to, Dan is a genius. He's in his own right. He's an artist. He was a ceramic artist that turned iron artist, and built a million different things, like all these different furnaces and stuff, and had all these resources. And he was a professor at the UW. So he had his own pours at the UW Whitewater. And, and so anyway, he's like, you know what, Dan's got a small furnace that he's been trying to get rid of, and I just didn't have a place to run it. He's like, maybe we can take that and build it out, because it didn't have I feel like it didn't have a wind belt to it or something. It's like half done, but it was the cutest little thing. I mean, it was like, maybe like 10 inches. I don't know. It was so tiny. It was on wheels. It was like a wheelbarrow, and he had like a barrel of Coke for us to use. I mean, like he kind of got, it was like with Greg's resources, like he kind of got us started, and we ended up building out the wind box and, and the tweers. And we were like, we had to like do all this stuff, to it. And then he's like, well, we got to find chemistry. We got to find a mixer, we got to find all this stuff. And I was just like on it. I was like, so I'm calling up like, core companies in Milwaukee, we had a ton of them. And they're like, who are you? Or like, what are you with? Or, I was just like, I'm with myself. I was like, I'm here to get some of your chemistry with, I got a bucket, and they're just like, you're cute. Like, they're like, all right, they're like, get over here, and so they would give us a tour, and then they would like, let us buy, like tap off some of their stuff, and they're like huge totes, and so like, I'm like, okay, chemistry check. I was like, mixer check, and I was like, I was just pulling it all together, and so it was Greg, and then my other friend, who was friends with Greg, was Chris Gerber, and he's a smithy, so he's a jewelry smith, so he's like, I mean, but like such a talented person, but also was an iron cat, so like he like was in on it too. So it was Greg, Chris, and myself in my studio space. We had this awesome little courtyard, and we put together this furnace in this little like jam session, and ran our first one on Thanksgiving 2009, I think, maybe, or like maybe 2008, maybe it was 2009. Because we rented on Thanksgiving, and I remember we were just like, we're not sure if this is actually going to work. Like we, like, I mean, we had like kind of like,
I've been to a couple of pours like that where
like nobody brought a mold. There was no molds. There was nothing. We had a chicken. We had 2 guinea hens. That was like one of Chris's. He's like, we'll just pour it into some guinea hens if we get some metal, just, it was like super gross. Yeah, super gross.
From the grocery store?
Yeah, like it was like real. Okay. I know. Cooked it real fast.
Okay, cool.
And then like we didn't even really have a pig. It was a disaster. Basically what happened is that little thing made metal so fast. It was just like a fire drill from hell. We're like, well, damn it. It was just like throwing out. I mean, we had 1 ladle and no mold. Yeah. We're just like, what are we doing? We're like throwing it into cinder blocks. Like, I mean, we were just like, we had nowhere to go. We were like starting to dump it back into the furnace.
Sounds like you were like, I didn't actually think this.
We really didn't. Like, we were like not sure because nobody had run it before, and we had just finished building it. So I was like, this is my first time, like, not only being part of like the back end of it, but also just you never really got a chance to be on the ladle or like work with work with the furnace at all. I was just taking cues from these guys that had all this experience, and so the first one was kind of like crazy pants, and we like drop bottom. We're like, all right, it's a good furnace. Like, this is good. She's good. Like, let's stop this now. Stop putting metal in there. And so then we quickly were like, all right, we got to do this again, like prepared this next time. So that was the first Pour Your Heart Out in February. So it was it was like where we actually invited people, like we're like molds, we're like, hey, like we got this thing that works. We want to make some molds this time, and bring whatever you want. Like, we've got this super groovy thing. We were like kind of, just inviting neighbors and like friends of our, mainly their friends, because I didn't have anybody that was metal casting yet. I had some of my college, my cats from like college, So some of those guys came out. But there was a lot of people that just stopped casting, by that time. It was like 5 years from the time that.
Yeah. I mean, that we've all seen that happen.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, access to it, you have to find that tribe, like you got to find it again. And I was like, I was like sniffing for it forever. I was like on the hunt, like constantly for it. So I feel like, like there was a culmination of things that happened at that Pour Your Heart Out. Like, one, I felt so fucking proud of ourselves. Like, I was just like, we are Midwesterners, we are American, like we did it. We're doing it. Like we like can do anything, damn it. We melt metal, and it's like, we just like made it happen. It was like such an act of will, and like in grit and determination, and it was like, bah. And so my mold that I brought to it was the Wisconsin skillet, because I was like super damn proud of like us as like Wisconsinites figuring this shit out, like, calling companies, asking for like, begging for like materials, like sand and chemistry and like, whatever. And the reason, and a lot of people are like, why skillets? Why Wisconsin? And this and that. And like, I missed saying this about like what I was making during school, but like my very like second casting, the second iron pourer that I did during school was a graphic waffle maker. And I was like starting these series called like the Breakfast of Champions. And so, so the first one was, the dead corn on the cob. And the second one was a Jesus waffle maker. And so I've been doing, and like the whole time I was in school, I was trying to make graphic waffle makers work and consistently failing at them, because waffle makers are tough to make. I mean, they're tough patterns to make. They're tough castings to make. They're thin, and there's just a lot I learned. But like, I kind of like, I always lean on the fact that I've been making graphic cookware since I started casting iron. Basically, is like is what I started. And so, because of this like experience, I mean, to give you some context, I had just gotten back from Norway. I had just finished a really shitty internship up at, Franconia. I was feeling pretty disgruntled about like, certain things like just there was like, it was at the time when I think like Obama was like about to be like, it was like 2008. There's a lot of like turmoil, like there's a lot of like
a lot of angst around that
yeah,
time.
like there was like a lot of Americana going on, and I was out of the country, and I felt like kind of a sense of like like almost like dissonance, but like also pride for like just being Midwestern. Like I was just like, well, let me just hold on to the one thing that I have, which is like I have my community, which is like this really rock solid set of people, with like great values that work really hard, that that are not assholes, that are that give a shit, And so I made the Wisconsin state as a skillet.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And what's wild to me is like it hasn't been done before.
I know, right? Like, why hasn't everybody done this already? I don't know. I don't know. Again, it's like, why hasn't a podcast iron been done yet? Right.
Yeah. Like, yeah. But it's like, but it was that was it. That was your calling, your moment, your inspiration. And it sounds like all of that backstory fed into it. Totally. And so then it's even that more meaningful.
Yeah, no, it was like without a thought. Like I just was like, well, duh, I'm going to make a Wisconsin skillet like that, is like of all this stuff that we just like finished, and it's like, and I've been waiting for this moment forever. And it's like, fuck yeah, I'm going to like cast it in iron. Like this is like my moment, that solidifying this like accomplishment, right? Like, and for whatever reason, it casts really well. And that was the last time it had cast before I had to change that pattern like 9 times. Like I tried it like 9 times.
Oh, after that
never worked, because it was like an 1/8 inch thick. Like it was so thin. Oh my God. And I don't know why to this day. I do know why, because the universe needed me to make that thing.
Yes.
There's no other reason. Because like I took it to a pattern maker. I ended up really getting involved with, 2 things happened. So like we made the Wisconsin skillet. Everybody we broke out our molds that night, and everybody was just like, oh my God. They're like, that is so fucking cool. Like I want one, like everyone's like, I want one. And I was just like, you would want one of these? Like, shut up, like they're just like, no, totally. I would like want 2 of them, one for me, one for my parents. Like everybody was like, they were like taking orders, and I was like not serious about it. I was like, no. I'm like, I'm not done with this yet. I'm like, now I gotta make the rest of the Midwest. Like, I'm like, I want this to be like the wall piece that's like just the splat of like skillets on the wall that all their handles are out. I saw it right away. I was like, the second I saw it, I was just like, I'm not making another one of these until I make all the rest. And so I got to work on the rest of the Midwest, and I did like 7 other patterns, right away. Yeah. And at that time, that was when I met my partner, Andrew, who is probably seen him in the background.
And he's been in and out.
And he's he's an amazing woodworker, very talented craftsman that can do anything. He's like an annoyingly talented person that doesn't have to try. He just does stuff and it works. And and so I met him during that time, and he's just like, what are you making? And I was just like, I'm like ferociously like sanding things, and he's just like, well, I want to help make these, he's like, I could take some handles and sand, and like sculpt, I was like, no, I designed the handle. I was like, you can finish sand it. I was like, and that was like how we worked. But so like he was kind of in on it from the beginning with me, helping me build this like giant, unassumingly giant project that ended up becoming a company and starting this company with me. But like, this is where it started. It was like, I'm like sanding handles like in the shop. And and then that summer, because that was in February, and that was 2009. And then that summer, 2009, I went to Kelly's farm pour, and that was my first farm pour with Kelly. And I took, I didn't have my patterns ready yet for the for the Midwest, but I took these other, like another set of waffle makers that I was working on at the same time, and cast those at his farm pour, but they didn't pull well from the sand mold. Again, it was like my nemesis is like, I just like had the hardest time pulling these like patterns, and I was like, why? Like, what am I doing wrong? And I was using shellac as like my like sealant for like brand new wood patterns, which was the culprit. That was the whole reason that like, and I didn't have any wax or anything on there. It was just like just shellac, just sticky as cheap shellac. And so they stuck like hell to the pattern, to the sand, and nothing came out right. And it was like one of these failures that had to happen again, right? Like that's like, if I didn't go through that, then I wouldn't have pushed to get to the next level, which was Kelly saying, oh man, I'm so sorry that those didn't work, but I've got a friend in the Twin Cities that works at a foundry that if we take these to him, like maybe we can get some advice and get them just cast, just like get them cast.
Yeah.
And so that was my first step into like an industrial foundry, hooking up with like a real, like commercial facility, and getting a chance to like, like to meet them and like cast these pieces, learn a whole lot there. And then basically like kind of start that relationship of saying like, I'm like a serious artist that wants to make castings, like, and it left an impression on them, because they were like, all right, this person, these people want to come in and work their asses off, and it costs us nothing because, they're just over there doing it. They use a little bit of sand, a little bit of metal, and they're happy as hell, and they paid premium for it. And, which was really not a lot for them. It was just like, we're like $20, thank you. And so like kind of all this stuff is happening like in 1 year. It was like, within a 12-month time, like between that Thanksgiving pour with the crazy turkey and then going to Kelly's farm pour was like not even 8 months time, between like getting a furnace built and then starting to do our own events and really starting to travel to go to the iron pours where, I'm like taking patterns and like trying to really invest in like learning more and like meeting more of my tribe, and like, of course, Kelly's pour is like the epicenter for us, like meeting people. So yeah, that's kind of like where the Pour Your Heart Out started, and where the state skillet started, like kind of at the same moment. Pour Your Heart Out is it'll be like 14 or 13. Is it 13 or 14 now? We just passed it. I just don't remember. It's 13 or 14 years, I think, coming up. And it's become this huge community event here in this, in Madison area. And now it's more about like how to get people, inspired and involved in the mold making process, and like learning about casting, and, and really, it's kind of twofold. It's like to both like help the community, educate them about like what it means to make a casting, and castings are everywhere in your life. People shouldn't be expecting castings to be China prices. Like, they're difficult things to make, lots of variables.
Yeah.
And the second half is to, like stay present with my community and be like, like we're still doing like, it's kind of, I don't want to say like marketing, but it's, it's like, it's really engaging with.
Yeah. It's like public relations event.
Yeah, totally. Cause I want to have that active, the active engagement with our community, and like, and showing them that like, we're a business, but we're also like, we're educational, we're creatives that are, that are leveraging what we know to like enhance what they do, and like in their creativity, and pulling that out, and like just making it's a super fun event. I mean, it's in February every year, so it's like freezing cold.
I have to tell you that is actually on my bucket list of iron pours. It is. And there's been, I think there was 1 year I was really close to going, but then something came up. And so I was like, well,
Yeah.
nobody knew that I was going to go anyway. So it's okay. I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly
Nobody
what it
saw.
was. It wasn't, I don't remember, but,
Well, when you come, you'll be met with open arms whenever that is.
thank you.
So.
And I always knew that I would. And so I'm probably going to try and put it on the calendar for this
That's great.
for 23. So, but
Oh, that'd
I'm
be
starting
amazing.
to tell everybody that I'm going
I'm
to their course.
going.
So, well, like, but I'm telling everybody, like, yes, I'm going to be at the down on the farm pour, and like, I'll be at repair days, and and so I have
Oh
to
my God.
actually sit down but
Yeah, schedule it out. Yeah.
so I was wondering if we could talk about if you have anything hot on the horizon coming up.
I do. Yeah. So this leads in. I, with the graphic waffle makers, 20 years in full circle. I'm partnering with Kay Dart, who is another badass female artist that is my waffle engineer.
And she's on my list of people
good.
coming,
Oh,
like
good.
of people to contact in the next round
Oh,
to try and see
yeah.
if she wants to be on.
Yeah. So Kay is amazing. Just like totally, she's bananas. And has wholeheartedly come with me into this waffle journey of launching a commercial waffle line. And we've partnered with another company called Equipex, and they make they're commercial countertop appliances. They're based in Rhode Island, but they have manufacturing in France, and they're a global company. They have they have two models that we have reverse engineered the plates for. And so we're doing the custom logoed waffle plates for any commercial clients that they have that want custom stuff. And then for my clients. So seriously, I mean, since I started like that first waffle maker, that Jesus waffle maker, I've been collecting like emails of like inquiries from everybody, from Pabst Blue Ribbon to like the US Army to Sony to, I mean, crazy, like crazy corporations that are like, do you have like an electric version of this? And I always had to say no, because electric is, it's a rabbit hole. Like it's like,
yeah. And your focus is on the
iron and
and combine like would be more suited for combining like the logo that they want with the actual iron. Right. And then somebody else can figure out.
Right. There's so many liabilities in like NSF and UL listings, certifications to keep up. I mean, it's like, it goes on and on. It's more complicated than it seems. So when I called Equipex 2 years ago and was like, here's the deal. Like, I have a sculpture studio. We do this, like, I have like a production company and a sculpture studio. I have this like market that has been bubbling for years. And I just have never been able to partner with the right appliance manufacturer that's willing to take a risk and, and basically let us utilize your appliance for like custom, production. If the appliance has like plates that are removable to any degree, that are not integral to the thing itself. And, and I said, like, are you interested? And so the guy on the other line was like, who are you? Like, who are you? And / where have you been like for the last 20 years? Because this is something that we've been saying no to for our clients for 20 years. And they were like, dude, like literally we've been like, we've not been able to fulfill that kind of, niche because it's relatively small, I mean, it's not like every one of their clients needs that, but it's like when they need them like in smaller quantities, generally, like 12 and under. And they're like, our manufacturer needs like, like 2,000 and above, like to like legitimize, any sort of order. And so I was just like, great, because I am done mass producing cookware. Like I've done that and it's not as fun as it could be. And I'm just looking to do more like hyper custom, low volume stuff. That's not going to just be a race to the bottom and a ton of work that just doesn't give me a ton of benefit. Like emotionally and financially, so that's the thing. We just launched it earlier in June or July, just this month, really.
Wow. Oh yeah. That's wicked hot.
It's hot. Yeah. So we have a whole page. Like I built, I've been like busy, like building websites lately. It seems like, built a page on the FeLion website for the waffles, for the custom stuff. We have 3 design packages that we put together. We have an intake form so that people can kind of give us the MO on like what they need. And then I'm kind of like the one that's doing the like front of house, like I do all the like contracts and like talk to the clients and like face to face with them, and really hashing out the scope of the project. And then Kay is like the brains and the brilliant like design side of it, where she's taking the logo, the DXF, and then like plugging it into this system that she created that's custom, like a custom system that she created to help take the different waffle packages and like build them out consistently. Yeah, she's just like, she thinks so systematically, which is like awesome, because that's what you need to have efficiency and like in success in like anything that you're doing. But
so that's live now.
Yeah,
so people can
we have like 4 clients so far, and we just
that's
launched.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
I know it's super cool, and I can't wait until we get like some of these under our like, belt, that we can start like seeing like, see like these are really like it's not just this crazy thing that we've been talking about for years. But I'm just so happy to partner with her because she's a super, a friend that I met, I don't know, forever ago at Scranton at an iron pour, of course. And I don't even remember what year, but anyway, we've known each other for a bit. And and she's got that like that crazy, she's got like 2, super strong parts in her brain that like she can be like an engineer and an artist. And like that's very hard to find a person that has both of those ways of thinking, that they can be crazy pants and like and have fun and very innovative, but also systematic and process based and like very organized. And and like, because I work with tons of engineers that are absolutely not creative, and then I work with tons of creative people that are a shit show for organizing, like for processes or anything. And so it's like, it's such a relief to have another person on my team that can do both.
The best of both worlds. And I can't wait to have her on so I can pick her both sides of her brain.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see how this like keeps on going.
I know.
The company.
Right. I know.
So I was wondering, just kind of in closing for the public section, we're going to go over to the after show but do you have any advice for up and coming casters, or people that maybe advice that you would give your younger self? Or
my younger self. I almost wish I could take the advice that I did as a younger self and give it back to myself now.
Oh, good. Yeah. Let's hear that. That's a good perspective to have.
Yeah.
As we get older.
Yeah. A lot has changed, man. I mean, there's so much more liability now for me than when I first started, and there was just like nothing to lose, and it's like, I just took all the opportunities like full on without questioning like what the consequences could be. And that's what gave me I think the success that I have had, is like that I was just like so unafraid to take on like a new opportunity without overthinking it and without, really like deliberating about like, oh, like how much energy is it going to take, and now it's like everything has to go through like such a, like everything is such a commitment, it just seems like. And so it's really hard to move forward faster when you have like a lot of things at play, it's like, well, like, do I have the energy, the money, the time, the whatever?
But you've worked so hard to build this all up.
Right. Yeah. And that's and sometimes those things can weigh you down a little bit. Is what I feel like, like I'm actually looking to kind of like close down American Skillet just so that I can have that freedom again, because I really miss, I really miss some of the like playful, creative, like trajectory that I used to have, like where I would just have more of the time. And like, and like when you run two companies, it's very, it's just like, it's a lot, it's like, so I guess my first piece of advice is never run two companies.
Okay.
Just pick one.
Noted. That's in the books. Got it.
Don't do two businesses at once unless you've got a really great system or a team. Like, unless you're a fantastic systemizer, like, then go for it. But my second advice, I guess, would be like network the shit out of your time, like whatever you can, because I think that I wouldn't have been, I would be nowhere without the tribe that I have met.
Yeah.
Like if it weren't for Kelly, and geez, there's a million people that I'm just gonna miss, like Allie, Riza, Dan Jerkin, Gray, God, who else? It's just and numerous, like it's just like it's exhausting, the amount of people that I have met that have propelled me, supported me, and like, and really met me more than halfway, to help me accomplish what I needed to be done. Andrew, obviously, my partner, is like number one. And, and so it's like, you got to really, like, you need people that you can't do it yourself. So like, I just think that like the more iron pours you can go to, like, the more people you meet, you never know like where that leads. It's just like, and the inspiration you get from just different ways of doing stuff or thinking about things, and and you run into all this, all these opportunities of like, that may be challenging, that like open up, different avenues, you just never know. And I feel like there's so much of that at an iron pourer, that just all that problem solving, that you need to get through, and like that you can apply in all the different ways. It's like, I would just be like, be a animal about it, is what I would tell the younger ones, like, go for it. Don't even question it. Just do it.
That's great. Yeah. Because you'll find those people that will uplift you. And it sounds like, I can tell you found those people to uplift you.
Oh man. Yeah. Time and time again. Seriously, Eric Stevenson. As I'm thinking about it, it's just like all of the Chicago crew, like the Twin Cities crew, and like Milwaukee. Just everywhere and anywhere. Scranton, Nikki Moser. Oh my God. There's just so many stories.
And as you're saying these names, I'm like writing them in my mind, but I write them down as I edit the episodes. I will write down people's names and be like, okay, they're on the next round of invites. So
yeah, there's so many. Oh my God. I'm like overwhelmed for you. Yeah.
No, because it's good, because I'm not going to run out of stories.
Yeah.
and everybody, and I feel like we could keep talking for hours, I think. So let's take it on over to the after show. But do you have a story in mind that you're thinking about talking about in the after show? Just so don't tell me, but tell me like maybe a teaser.
Yeah.
Or do you want me to read the questions and kind of prompt you?
No. I got
I love it when people have something already.
I definitely might be putting your most scary and funny together. Like it's kind of inappropriate that they're the same. No,
it's not. Nothing is inappropriate in iron.
I know that, but yeah, it's like, I do. I have a couple stories, and definitely like some stupid ones, stupid, like there's ones that are like, you're saying worst or scared or funniest, but I also have just some dumb story, like some like, oh my God, seriously, why do we do that? Like, why?
Okay. I'm excited. So we're going to go on over to the after show, but for everybody that's listening to the public version of this, thank you so much for tuning in. And Alisa, thanks for being on this episode with me today.
Oh man, this is my pleasure. This is great.
I'm so glad that we had so much fun. And so we're going to go on after to the after show, but thanks everybody for watching or listening. And if we don't see you in the after show, we'll definitely see you in the next episode. Okay. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Alisa's story is a perfect example of how, if we really put our mind and effort towards something, we can manifest it into existence. Her diligence, drive, and determination has created a profound career as an artist and business owner. I have taken a great deal of inspiration from this conversation with Alisa because her energy and enthusiasm for life and iron casting is contagious. Alisa, thank you for showing all of us in the community that if you have an idea and fuel it with honest, hard work, you can make it a reality. Ever since I first heard about you and your state-shaped cast iron skillet business, I've been in awe of you, but also very curious. Now that you've answered many of my questions, I'm even more impressed with your story, and I have taken away a great deal of motivation that is translating back into my own life. Thank you for sharing with us your story so far, and I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. And good luck with the waffles. If you want access to more information about Alisa, her skillets, her waffle makers, or her custom art business, visit her website at FeLionStudios.com. You can also follow Alisa on Instagram, and her handle is FeLion_studios. A big shout out to our top supporter, Sloss Metal Arts, as well as our other supporters on Patreon. I really appreciate all of your contributions, which help me afford the online hosting of the podcast Iron audio files. And I hope that you'll enjoy this week's after show, where Alisa recounts some of her favorite, but also most intense experiences on the iron pour floor. If you want access to the after show from each episode, go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/podcastiron. There, you can choose a contribution level that fits within your budget, and Patreon supporters at any level get access to the after show from each episode. And this is just an extra 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more, whatever the guest will give us, with the show's guest, which we talk a little bit more candidly and we'll share at least one more story. So for as low as $1 a month, you can support the show and get this extra content. But if you don't have it in your budget to support the podcast Iron on Patreon, that's okay. Instead, could you please share this podcast with someone you think would be interested in listening or watching? And I'll honestly appreciate that just as much. Anything and everything helps, and for that I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you happen to be watching this show on YouTube, please subscribe to the podcast Iron channel. And this way you can set up notifications for when each episode goes live, but also I am working towards 100 subscribers because reaching that milestone will allow me to change the URL from a random arrangement of letters and numbers that I've been assigned to a more personal URL. And I would love to have the YouTube channel website address be youtube.com/podcastiron. But until I get 100 subscribers, I can't do that. So for those of you who have subscribed, thank you for helping me make this dream a reality. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at thepodcastiron@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and watching. I'm sending you all my love always, and I can't wait to share the next episode with you. I'll talk to you soon. And have a great day.